Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Political Vigilante. We are back in our Los Angeles studios. It's very exciting. Had a great time in El Salvador. Thank you to everybody that watched the Orange Pill podcast. I will be back down there doing more stuff. There's a lot of cool things we're working on down there. Some bigger projects that require raising, bigger budgets and stuff. It's going to take a little time, but I absolutely loved it down there. And I want to, live down there. That's what I want to do. I want to live down there, but it is nice to be back in LA. And it's nice to be back in America where we just live in such a rational, sane place. It's so insane that now there are stories like this. Millennials and Gen Z's trendy new splurge groceries. This was in Business Insider, which if this does not give you, and Glenn Klippenstein did this, Edward Snowden wrote, the racket. First, they criticize you for eating avocado toast and then for eating at all. So this is, let's go into this article real quick. Well, this is just a screen cap, but it's showing you how expensive everything is, how people are barely getting by. I mean, I just went to the grocery store. I just went to Costco. In Costco, you can still get a lot of great deals, but I'm just comparing. I'm like, oh, this, whatever it is, this giant bag of cashews used to be, $12.99. Now it's $17.90. Like it's up by $3 or $4, which is like, that's a 30% or 40% increase. And then they put out this nonsense that it's like, oh, the jobs market is doing great, everybody. It's so great. So to comment on this and why this is, I don't know how they're shaming. Anyway, host of the 1000 podcast, regular to the show, and a friend of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ron Placone.
Yeah, these greedy Americans needing food to live.
These, spoiled little 20-somethings who just, want to buy groceries like,
it's incredible. Well, and look, here's what's happening simultaneously to kind of get to the frickin' man behind the curtain with all this. Groceries are going up in obscene amount. The price increases that we have seen in the United States, and this is happening all over the world, but in the United States, it's really turned up to 11. The price increases that we have seen on groceries, on transportation, and these are things people need. These aren't luxury items. You need frickin' food.
Yeah.
They have gone up in a way that usually takes 15 years. Yes. In the past 3 years, usually it takes 15 years for a price jump like this. It's happened in about 3. Have wages followed? Hell no. And they know this. And also, another big fly in the ointment here. There is a possible grocery merger between Kroger and Albertsons. If that merger happens, prices for groceries are going to go through the frickin' roof. The only thing standing between that merger right now is the FTC, and in particular, Lina Khan at the FTC. She's doing some amazing stuff. And hey, credit where it's due. I like Joe Biden as far as I can throw him. But she was an appointee from the Biden administration. It was one of the few things that he did that was a good thing, was appointing her to the FTC. So the FTC, they are holding the ground right now. Is that guaranteed? I don't know. But if that merger happens, we're going to see prices of groceries go through the frickin' roof. And look, it's happening in Portland. It's happening in Los Angeles. There's more and more armed guards at grocery stores right now. Why is that? Because they're preparing for a future when Americans aren't going to be able to afford food. And they're going to say, I got to go with a gun to the grocery store or my kids don't eat. That's the future they're getting ready for. I mean, when I would talk about the merger, people would they'd be like, oh, come on, Ron, the sky's not falling. Look at these freaking headlines. They're shaming you for buying food. They're trying to gaslight you like you're the problem. Oh, look at this grocery bill. I guess I am eating too much. No, I had a joke in my act about this, where like the United States is the only country where people will freaking blame themselves for societal things. Like when the price of water went up in California, everyone was going around like, I guess I am washing my hands too much. No, they jacked up the freaking price. Do you realize that grocery prices went up too? Or do you think you're eating too much? The media is going to try to convince you that you're eating more. That's what they're going to try to do. I mean, it is frightening.
I look at my own shopping habit. First of all, just being 2 months in El Salvador where everything is a lot less. I mean, I went out to breakfast with a buddy at our a local little breakfast spot here in LA, and it's a pretty affordable, and it's a Mexican restaurant. It has pancakes and all that stuff, but you get like rice and beans and eggs and tortillas. It was $12 for that. I can get that very, very meal in El Salvador for $3.50, and that comes with a cup of coffee. Like, rice, beans, and the tourist price for that is $7. Like if you go to a tourist restaurant in a tourist part of the country, it's $7 for breakfast in a restaurant. And, I'm just like, you and I went out to eat the other night. It was really nice, but I was looking at the price going, man, I've gone out to eat like 2 or 3 times this week since I've been back. It's good to see everybody. I loved going out to eat experience and just talking over a meal. But I'm looking at these prices, knowing what I was just paying for 2 months in El Salvador. And I'm like, oof, this is not, I can't do this. I can't go out to eat. I got to go out to eat once a month. And then, so how are we stimulating the economy? And then I look at my grocery shopping habits, and like, I'm just buying the basics. I'm not getting like, oh, let's get that nice kind of dip. No dip, nothing fancy, just vegetables, protein, whatever, and I eat very healthy. Organic food is more expensive thanks to good people like Monsanto that make organic food. The way Mother Nature wants you to grow food is more expensive than the crazy kind with pesticides and whatever else. So it's nuts. And again, Americans are we're the only country where we're shamed. You're shamed. I mean, we shamed people for losing their homes to foreclosure. Well, you shouldn't have taken out those loans. And it's like, the bank guy, we're not taught financial education in schools. The bankers were going, hey, I'll give you a line of credit on your bank. I'll refinance it for 1% interest. I'll give you a home equity line of credit. And was like, okay, cool. At one point, are we supposed to be knowledgeable on everything? Like, my brakes were squeaky. The mechanic said they're fine, and my brakes went out and I got in a car wreck. Well, I guess ultimately that is my fault, but it's always shame the individual and not look at the system that is creating this.
Right.
And how is this possible? I mean, how is it, especially California, where we have the 5th largest economy in the world. We produce most of the produce for the United States comes from this state. I mean, other states produce it, but I mean, we have a huge agricultural business. What is this? Like, what's going on? And like you say, this, we saw things come to a head during the pandemic. People were bottled up inside and they had time to just sit home. And that's when they watched the George Floyd things and those protests. And part of those protests were we're fed up with the government. Yeah. And one of the things that happened near me when there was riots in Santa Monica, the Vaughn's grocery store, which is no longer there, they looted it because it was late May. The pandemic had been going on for over 2 months. We were in like our 9th or 10th week of it. And I knew a lot of people that hadn't gotten their unemployment benefits. I was one of them. Thankfully, I was doing this YouTube show, so I was okay financially. And I remember thinking to myself, if I was just a road comic, we had already canceled all of our tour dates at that point, and I didn't have a YouTube show, and I hadn't gotten my unemployment yet because there was a backlog because I hadn't applied for unemployment in 25 years. I thought I probably would have gone to that grocery store and looted some food because I would have been hungry.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's Absolutely. And the one thing that time period did, and somebody tweeted a thread about this that I thought was just so brilliant. They were like, they're never gonna, I mean, there is a chance, I hope it doesn't happen, but there is a chance we're gonna face another, pandemic again. I mean, technically we're still in one, but we're gonna face another, like widespread disease, like all over the place. They're never gonna do anything resembling a lockdown ever again because they saw what happened. I mean, there was kind of some solidarity brewing in 2020. There was some solidarity amidst the people, and a lot of people were saying we shouldn't be living like this. This isn't the way this society set up is completely unsustainable. It's not right, and this is by choice, and we're getting screwed. People started realizing that, and they started realizing it en masse. And I don't know about you, I had a moment of optimism where I said, oh man, we're going to turn the car the opposite direction of the cliff and drive somewhere beautiful. Instead, we really, once that car was operational again, we went through full throttle heading towards the cliff. But nonetheless, they don't want to take the chance that might happen again.
No, I mean, one of the things I always talk about that the end of that George Floyd week, people were protesting all over the world. They were tearing down like slave owner statues in London, Christopher Columbus statues. One of the most telling pieces to verify what you're saying, which is the ruling elites, those in real power, were like, uh-oh. People had surrounded the White House and they had breached the perimeter of the White House. That is a very big deal. The media did not cover it.
No.
It only because if CNN would have been like, oh my God, we're live and people are breaching then it would have been like January 6th, only everyone would have gone to the White House to burn it down and to kill Trump. And people were fed up, and people would have been watching on the news and going, oh fuck, I'm going out of the Capitol. And instead of a couple thousand people, you would have had 20 or 30,000 people there within 30 minutes, and they would have breached the White House. And the media that hates Trump, the CNN and MSNBC, got lockstep with the ruling elites and said, do not air this. And that you could only see it on social media. So I think you're right. They're never going to try some widespread lockdown, because then they got wise. A year later, 2021, they said, let's roll out the vaccine and this will divide everybody. And everyone fought over vaccines and mandates. And that was very effective. They got all of us fighting with each other. We've lost friends over it. I mean, it was a very effective technique. And
and the other reason, backing up a little bit to when you said like, well, the media didn't talk about that when it happened in DC, the other, like happening with that event that nobody talks about still is that Trump put this country under martial law. And people, and look, I mean, it is disgusting to the gills that we are seeing a rematch between Trump and Biden. This is a sequel to a movie where the first one sucked. And it is disgusting that either one of these cretins will be occupying the White House still after our next election. But it's interesting to me how people will sugarcoat one or the other still.
Yes.
And I don't know. I have a hard time trying to decide which one is more annoying, because they are both painfully annoying. But a lot of people are and I think it's just because Biden's the one in office now, but a lot of people are sugarcoating Trump, where they're trying to, I mean, they're still trying to make it out like he was some non-interventionist, which he had 4 years to prove that he wasn't, and he did. He's not.
Right.
And he also put this, I mean, when they say like, well, Biden's an authoritarian, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Trump put this country under martial law. Yeah. Like, you're pretending that didn't happen. Like, how can you not? I mean, it's so there.
Both camps just willfully turn a blind eye to the awful stuff that their guy does. That's the problem in America. They both make the pro-Biden people like, well, he's not, and the Trump people like, he's going to bring about freedom. And like, again, he put people under martial law. And they always say he didn't start any new wars. Yeah, he kept the 7 wars that he inherited from Obama going. I mean, come on. He kept bombing 7 countries. He didn't start a new one. That's how low the bar is in this country. If you keep 7 wars going, but don't start an 8th, you're a peacenik. You're Gandhi. Like it's so ridiculous. And I just want to put this up. Thank you, Annabelle Corley, for supporting the show. I think about my parents' generation. Everything was affordable: housing, education, food, etc. Now nothing is. Such a great point too. I mean, my dad was a college professor in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and he, I think, made about 20 some grand a year. The house we lived in, which was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, nice middle-class home, probably cost him 18, 20 grand or something like that, you know, and he was making a $300 a month mortgage payment or something like that. I mean, I look at the average housing price in America is somewhere near $430,000. And if in California, it's like over 800,000. But even I was doing the numbers on this. Let's say you live where the average home price is about 400 some grand, and you're married and you each make 50 grand a year, which is the average income in America. So you're a combined income of $100,000. To put a 20% down payment on that house where you don't have to pay a mortgage insurance would be roughly $86,000. Yeah. And you and your wife are making 100 grand a year total combined. And you got to put down, how are you going to save up 86 grand? And then if you do have the 86 grand, let's say you have it, you have a stock portfolio, you inherited some money, you were smart with your money, you've been saving since the jump. Now you're making a mortgage payment on roughly $330,000 at somewhere in the neighborhood of 8% interest. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a $3,000 to $3,500 mortgage payment. Again, combined income, I'm just picking average Americans, 2-income household making 50. Even if one of you is making 100 grand a year and the other one's making 150 grand a year, is still, how are you going to pay a $3,200, $3,300 mortgage payment? You haven't paid one utility bill. You haven't paid any taxes. You haven't, how are you not? I don't even want to get into California where it's 800 grand. I mean, we can't even, you're talking about $160,000 down payment.
Well, I mean, fortunately, people have the option to rent, and that's always reasonable.
Yeah, yes, and they haven't deliberately jacked that price up. No, rents are totally affordable here.
No, it's. I mean, honestly, man, and I don't. For some reason, this show is always where I really just let I let loose on what I think is gonna happen. Like, because I don't like it's to the point where it's like, I mean, I'll say it. I mean, I say it on Status Quo. I say it, wherever it's appropriate. It's not, I don't hold back, but I honestly think, I mean, a lot of the direction the United States is going, I do think because it's such a big place, there will be people will be able to find pockets where they'll be okay.
Right.
But for the most part, it's like, you want to be in the United States, you better learn how to grow food. You better be able to grow food or know someone who does. You're going to have to learn how to use a gun. Or if everything I just listed isn't an option for you, you have one other possibility: be rich.
Yeah.
That's it. If you don't fall into one of those boxes, you're screwed. And in the best case scenario, you are going to have to work tooth and nail for anything resembling a quality of life. In a worst case scenario, you're going to be food insecure.
Yes. Even if you're growing your own food and you better, you hope you have neighbors and you can trade and stuff like that, there's still going to be something. You're not going to be eating a lot of big meals. You're going to be eating just enough. Like, what are you going to grow? Rice? Do you have a rice paddy? And, how are you going to get that? I mean, all of these things,
I tried it down at Cabrillo Beach. It was a train wreck, and I'm going to be paying off the fine for months.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta get rice. This
yeah.
is it needs wet, fertile land, and there's natural salt seasoning from the ocean. And they said, "You're an idiot. Get out of here."
Yeah, I mean, we're all just gonna have to start a hydroponic, garden in our closet or whatever. So yeah, it'll be an interesting, as we lead into, what are we, 6 months away from November? So
I've never seen more apathy for a presidential election ever. But you know what? The other side, I mean, I try to, I mean, even through the muck of it, I do remain a hopeful person. And it's like where I get that hope is the other side of that, the yin to that yang, is that young people, especially, they're looking outside of electoral politics and they're doing that younger and younger.
yeah,
And in a way, like, that's freaking awesome because they're really learning quick what it means to try to build power. And when I say power, I don't mean like military power. I mean like community power. And that's happening more and more throughout this country. And that's how like a real revolution occurs. Like a valid long-term revolution. I mean, when people think revolution, that they sometimes think of like an armed resistance, and it's like, no, that's not a sustainable thing. No. Like a sustainable thing is, people grabbing community power everywhere, and just changing the status quo. And what I just described is not accomplished easily, but it's not an impossibility. So, I mean, the fact that we have generations of people that are like catching on to that way quicker than you did, way quicker than I did, way quicker than, our generations did. I mean, that does kind of make you feel a little bit like, Gen Z and the alphas might get us out of this thing.
I have a lot of faith in them. I mean, I see them doing really cool thing. We've talked about it before. They've, unionized something 200 or 300 Starbucks nationwide. They're really at the forefront of this, calling out Israel's genocide. It's great. I mean, some of their communication skills aren't awesome because their whole lives have just been on a phone, but, they don't know how to interact face to face sometimes. But I like that they're out there just saying, no, we've always done it this way. Well, this way isn't working anymore. We got to change it. I really respect that a lot. And I hope that I don't want to be just full on cynic, no hope. It's all going, I don't want to live that way. That's just not good for me and my mental health. But I also have to be cautious because I've fallen for here we go. Things are starting. I can't do that either because we've all drank the Bernie Kool-Aid or whatever else a couple of times and gone, actually it's good. No. So, I mean,
we had reason there was reason for optimism there.
Sure.
Like there was reason. I mean, everything.
But that's my point. That's my point. We had legitimate reason for optimism and it still got crushed. So I hope things get better. I don't want to be right. I don't want this country to just collapse and everyone's having a gun in their own garden and fighting over fucking beans or whatever. Like, and I don't want to be like, I'm living in El Salvador surfing with Bitcoin going, well, all my friends and family in America are just in a hellscape. So good luck.
I actually thought about starting a segment called I Hope I'm Wrong. And the segment is just literally someone just gives me a jumping off point. That could be as simple as, Ron, what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years? And I just answer that question. And the segment is called I Hope I'm Wrong. And I try to be as entertaining as I can. But it's just like, Rob, what do you think the future of higher education is? And I'm like, well, I hope I'm wrong, but this is what I think. Rob, what do you think the future of the food culture in the U.S. is going to be? Well, here's what I think. Hope I'm wrong. What do you think the future of electoralism is going to be? Well, I hope I'm wrong, but
that sounds like that's a good name for a show. I hope I'm wrong. That's a really good name for a show.
All right, I'm writing it down.
All right,
might be a segment soon.
Follow Ron Placone, everybody, at Ron Placone on all of his socials.
Can I mention that Sunday we have an event?
Yes.
Los Angeles. For those of you in Los Angeles, my movie is screening at Flappers Comedy Club Sunday, April 14th at 5 p.m. And some cast members are going to be there for a short stand-up show, then a screening of the movie, and then a Q&A. Graham's going to be there. Graham's awesome in the movie. Eddie Pepitone is going to be there. Sarah K. Godot is going to be there. Anastasia Washington, Andrew Saxona. It's going to be a fun event. And all those people are members of the cast, too. So it's going to be a great time. RonPlacone.com for those tickets. Come hang out with us.
Yeah, some of you in the chat said you live in LA. Come out to the live show. It'll be a lot of fun.
Come hang out with us Sunday.